Hey, you guys, I'm Jamila Laurie. We are seconds into our live, so we are going to wait a few seconds to let everything connect. Um, I'm here today to talk standard operating procedures for entrepreneurs. Um, I'm going to get into it. If you're not aware, we are live on YouTube, the business channel, um, the not so business channel, if you know what that is. Oh, my business consulting on everything: Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. This will also be live on the website after at mybizconsulting.net. So we do have the chat box open. I'll be sipping on coffee. If you want to purchase or contribute to the coffee, there will be buttons on the screen where you could do so if you're on our Fluent channel. So make sure you're following me on Fluent, which is our site where we do more broadcasts. We'll be teaching more just from our private site, so we won't be live streaming on all platforms at all times. I'm Jamila Laurie, your host for today and educator, CEO of My Biz Consulting. A little bit about me if you don't know. I'm business technology and data science. Okay, so what what I do is I help small businesses get it together. I'm a business fixer. Okay, so you may start to see me post this in multiple places, business fixer, because it's kind of hard to explain in detail what I do for clients, as each client has a different need when it comes down to the entrepreneurs or small business organizations that I work with. Um, I really want to, I'm ready to jump into it. Of course, you guys. So I'm on two screens. If you have questions, I will be jumping into the chat to try to answer some questions. So no matter what platform you're on, um, in a perfect world, it will still get to me no matter what on this platform that I'm broadcasting from. So, over the past few weeks, I have been um, focusing on putting out fires for organizations, going into the new year, dealing with a lot of crisis, a lot of inconsistencies, not being able to get people to work for you. So this has become an issue, and of course, I'm analytical, so I had to take a deeper dive to figure out like what's going on. And I think the business standard from a larger scale is is really kind of parallel to what small businesses are experiencing as well. So I started there and I realized a lot of small businesses do not have the basics in place that they need to operate. So with that being said, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about standard operating procedures for entrepreneurs. If you've never worked in an administrative capacity or operations capacity or help desk capacity. So my background is I managed several help desks throughout my career, where this having standard operating procedures in place is imperative to the work that we do. This may have not been the case in a lot of other roles or positions, or I'm sure a lot of larger companies have them in place. They have to, but you may have not been in your role. You may have not been privy to those documents on how they work and why they work and who makes them and who does what. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, a standard operating procedure is literally that. How do you operate daily? You need to start to take a moment to drill down. So, when it comes to small businesses, a lot of companies come to me and say, "Hey, I need online marketing done." Great. So, what's your niche? Is my first question. What is your niche? A lot of companies say, well, I target this. Well, that's not enough. Okay, so I want to talk about, we're going to just kind of start with niche identity first. Okay, so I have some notes here and I'm going to read off to you because I don't remember all the time everything as detailed as I would like to put it out there. We're going to just jump into it. So let's talk a little bit about niche identity. Okay, take a moment to drill down in your niche. What are you offering specifically? What is your offer? Okay, and to whom exactly are you offering this to? Um, and when I say to whom, I mean really break it down. Um, Women who are between the ages of, in this group, this category, who have a total household income of, who have X amount of children, because we want to know what the emotional attachment is that connects your service or product to that customer, right? So in order for me to market your business, I need to know a lot of detailed information. And what I'm finding is when I sit with customers during that initial intake, they don't have that information for me. Okay. What should they get? Why should they get this from you? Like, why should they buy it or use your service? Like, why? Um, my approach is simple. I deal with small businesses because I take a very simple layman approach to helping them get organized, get put things in place. I'm a regular person. I'm also a small business owner. I get it. I understand. I've been there, right? So we have that empathy connection. That's our emotional connection. I don't sugarcoat it. I don't come in super duper analytical and professional to tell you, hey, I'm not throwing around terms that you have no idea what they mean. So I'm the keep it real specialist. I fix it. Let's figure it out. Let's fix it together. Um, so these are ways you want to actually connect with your customers. We no longer live in that back in the day era where it was like, suit and tie, wear this, dress like this, go out to these organizations, knock on the door 3 times, and make sure you say these particular things. We just don't live in that age anymore. So with that being said, we want to make sure that we connect with our customer. We want to make sure that we have that emotional connection, and that's included in that niche. Okay. Put that in your niche. Make sure you know how much income can they afford your service or your product. Um, where do they live at? What's the demographic in the area in which you're marketing and targeting? What's the zip code? Like, these things are so important, because I think small businesses, when we get started, we want to reach everybody because we're more focused on how much we can make. Stop doing the math on how much you can make, start doing the math on who your audience is. How do you reach them? How do you target? How do you connect with them? Okay, so that's the marketing standpoint of it, and that's very important to creating your operating procedures as well. Okay, so we want to also talk about assessing your strategies. What are your strategies to reach these customers? And I'm gonna get into the workflow and everything in a second, but you want to also write down what your strategies are. What have you already tried? What are you willing to try? What worked? What didn't work? When did it work? And what can you do to make it better? Which metrics do you need to document and follow for your social media, your Facebook ads, your everything that you're doing? You want to make sure that all of that information is written somewhere, because when someone comes to work for a company, they want to understand these things. Having these things outside of your head helps so much. Okay, especially when you're trying to grow a business. We don't want to just own a business and have a business. We want a business to work for us, right? So meet with your team. I call it brain dumping. We have brain dumps all the time here with our team members, and we try to figure out what strategies work best, what strategies were horrible, what sucks, what we need to get rid of, what we need to put back in place, how much more we need to invest in our strategies. You should be keeping up with all of the changes of social media, all the new algorithms that drop from Google, all of the new algorithms on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, to make sure that you're keeping up with the Joneses, as I call it. Okay. So That's a lot, right? So we talked about niche identity. We talked about as assessing your strategies, what strategies you have in place. So next, let's jump into the actual workflow. Okay. So this is where I find people are struggling the most, the workflow. Okay. What is your workflow? What's your framework? I ask this and I get the Scooby Doo. They don't know. You just people don't know what the framework is, and we want to make ourselves aware of these terms and how to answer these questions. We want to make sure that we have things in place. So your framework is your repeated task, something that you do every single day. What are you doing that's standard in your business every single day? You need to write that down. How can we streamline or automate that process? Because now it's time to take work off of you. Stop being stuck at the desk. You know how much more you can sell if you're not sitting at the desk, constantly trying to do all the work yourself. So it's time to streamline it, and writing it down is the first step. We need to increase efficiency. Okay. Having a standard operating procedure, or SOP, I like to call, in place creates a workflow. It's essential to your business. Okay. This includes everything that you do. And I know a lot of people try to cut corners and they think, hey, well, we got the job description. The job description is not your SOP. It's just not. Okay. We want to know exactly everything, how to do it. How would you think of a training manual? Okay. How to take incoming calls step by step, step by step. It may seem nonsensical, but trust me, it will help to create morale in your organization. It will help to streamline process. It will help so much to for training purposes, of course, making people accountable for the jobs that they're supposed to be doing. How to take an incoming call. How do you want your phone answered? If you want to hire someone to come in and just answer phones for you, how do you want your phone answered? Good morning, or hello, or thanks for calling. These are this is information that needs to be written down, so you don't have to constantly repeat yourself or think in your head, hey, I thought I told you that already. Hey, don't do that during a live call. So be mindful of having these things in place. It's important. How to document the call. Okay, a call came in, I took the call. Now what? Now what? I started working here yesterday. I have no idea what to do after that call comes in. What we think in our heads as business owners, leadership, secretaries, administrators, whatever, we feel like, okay, that's common sense. It's not common sense to everyone. It's not common sense to everyone because they may have not had the experience doing that particular job or running that particular program, or actually even answering the phones, right? So we want to make sure that we're building that confidence by providing them that education. We're setting expectations. We expect you to answer the phone this way. Here's that sheet that breaks it all down for you, right? How to onboard a new client. This is huge. What that process is. I talk to customers all the time about what's your process in onboarding. Some people don't have an onboarding process in place or an offboarding process in place. We tend to bring on people and we create expectation in our head. We don't give that expectation to the person that's working for us, with us, or partnering with us in some kind of way. They need to know the workflow, what's happening, how does this happen, for many, many reasons, which I'll continue to get into. Also, the sales pitch. The sales pitch is humongous. Okay. I'm sitting here literally for 2023 recreating our sales pitch, our onboarding process, because I can't do it all. So I have to hand this over to another staff member. And in doing so, what I have in my head, I have to put on paper so they know what the idea is that I have. So, of course, once they do it, if it doesn't work, we're going to come back and brain dump. We're going to come back, brain dump, and figure out what works. But the way it works for me is this way. I'm going to write it all out so you know what's in my head, so you can actually connect with the customer the same exact way I do and attack the call the same way I do, collect the information the same way I do. So by the time it gets to me to review it, I know I have everything that I need. Okay. So the sales pitch, onboarding, how to invoice. I find a lot of customers kind of do whatever, and and I say customers, my customers, per se, I'll go in and I say, well, what is your invoicing? What is your accounts flow process? And they have done nothing in place. Like, I just create an invoice and send it to them, and we wait for them to pay. My company, we no longer invoice. So for 2023, we walked into 2023 cutting out invoices. We came up with other strategic methods on billing and how to go about doing so. So invoicing is something that we phased out. This was very, very new. So we still have some clients who will be getting invoicing. It's going to be particular to the type of business it is and so on and so forth. But how does that work in your business? Think about it. How does invoicing work in your business? How do you go about it? Is it conducive to your accounting, to your payroll, to your billing? What's that turnaround time? Uh, are you paying for invoicing? Which was one of the issues I had. I was kicking out money to invoice, and what if a customer doesn't pay? If a customer doesn't pay, or if a customer pays extremely late, then that second invoice is generated, you lose money, right? So let's think of ways that we're not throwing money away. Let's kind of figure everything out and write it all down. Excuse me. How to use each particular system within your organization. So there should be instructions on how to use these systems. Just putting someone at a system because that you think is easy to use is not conducive to your workflow, to the workday. We all learn different, okay? So you want to write down instructions. And of course, I'm going to give you guys some tools towards the end, so stick around. I'm going to give you tools on how to accomplish some of these things, okay? Because I know it's not easy. I know time is of the essence. You don't have time to sit down and break all this stuff down. So I'm going to give you some quick tips on how to get through this, but you're going to have to stay till the end, okay? So how to, on everything, how to use the systems, the phone system, how to use the systems you log into, whether it's your billing system or the onboarding system or the day-to-day, the project management, day-to-day operation system, the CRM, so there's so many systems I believe that we sometimes use, even for social media. So how do you post? Some people, some companies use post planning software. So how do you actually post? How to create posts? You would think, a lot of people tend to rely on social media as well. It's social media, so people already know how to post. That is not true. That's just not. We can't rely on what people post online to say, okay, well, they know how to post. That's not true. Post training is imperative. It's important. You want to make sure that people are putting the information out there that they need to put out there, how they're putting it out there, and so on and so forth. What to include on the post, company hashtags, mentions, tags, quotes. What do you want on your post? So think about that when you're creating that as well. Um, and then a process of who does what. I find that this was the biggest obstacle I ran into when I ran into it when I went to a few companies recently. Um, Actually, about 4 to 5 companies I visited this month, even. Um, there was no process in place on who does what. They didn't know. It was like, I think this person does it, or I think that person does it. So that became a new nuance for me because we were trying to get something done. We were implementing software on several occasions, and we needed to figure out like who does what. And that wasn't written anywhere. It was no real surefire way to say, okay, this person, we just go to this person. Let me shoot them an email. Okay. So we need to make sure uh, the who, what, when, where, why, hows are completed, are written out somewhere. We need to know. And I'm going to jump into that. I'm not going to digress here, but in case of emergency too. So we're not even going to get into that this session. I mean, I have a whole book coming out on that, but just who does what we need to know. Okay. Who's responsible for this portion? Who's responsible for posting? Maybe someone else in an organization has a great post that needs to go out. And they can look on and figure out how to create the post, but who actually posts. So just let's keep it simple. Let's keep it simple, kids. Let's keep it simple, stupid. So let's keep it simple as possible when we're creating our process and procedures. We know this doesn't have to be overthought. In a new book, I will be offering templates on how to do this. And again, towards the end of this webinar, workshop, tutorial, whatever you want to call it, this live, I will be giving you some tools that you can use, some tools that I personally use within my organization. Let me take a sip of coffee here. So scalability, we're all here to grow, right? We don't want to just start our business and keep it in the same place year after year after year after year after year. We have to scale. So creating a standardized workflow helps you to scale. You know, having that workflow in place helps you to say, you know, put your process in place. This is how it works. If you walk into my organization, I can tell you this is how, from the sales call to the follow-up process to the client onboarding, how do we handle deadlines, milestones, metrics. Believe it or not, having this in place will help you to hire and keep new staff, right? So if you're having a problem with staff overturning constantly, they'll come work for you for a short period of time and then they'll leave and you're like, I wonder why they left, or they must have found something else. It's not always the money. A lot of times it's the aggravation that they have to put up with because they're there because you have nothing in order. You have no process and procedures in order. A lot of people who've worked in corporate environments come from a place of process and procedure. So when they get to your small business, as excited as they are to work there and help to grow, they want to see some kind of process in place. They want to see some procedures. They want to know what they're supposed to be doing. We cannot assume that when we hire someone because they have this background or this experience that they know how we want it done. Okay. So let's stop assuming. Let's stop assuming. We definitely had a client who just said, hey, people keep quitting. And I'm like, you have no process in place. You're all over the place. No one's going to work for you. Period. Like that's the end. Like no one is going to work for you. You have no process. Everything's in your head. They have to wait on you to get things done. It's not cool. It's not cool at all. Okay. So let's work on our niche identity. Let's work on assessing our strategy. Let's work on that workflow, writing it all down. When I say everything, I mean everything. And I mean really drill down to everything you do. And we're going to talk about that. Scalability. Think about how can I scale? We want to make this simple. We want to make everything a simple process. Work smarter, not harder. You probably heard that a million times, but like it's time to implement that thought process, that mentality, that strategy. Okay. Accounts payable and accounts receivable. Okay. What I'm talking about, this goes for every single part or department in your company. And when I say department, that I know most small business owners, entrepreneurs do all of these things themselves. I am familiar with that, but let's stop doing that. It's time for you to let some of these things go. And how to do that is creating standard operating procedures to figure out what you can hand off. The money is imperative. If you're not making money, if there's no money coming into your organization, you don't have an organization. Let's be realistic. Okay. How do you accept payments? A big giant question I ask when I'm building a website for someone. If my organization is building a website, we need to know how you accept payments. Why is this important? Because we need to know if you need to accept payments online. We need to know if this is going to be a regular site, an informational site, or an e-commerce site. So in order for us to actually build this out, we need to know that answer. And you can't tell me, oh, I just take payments any old kind of way. Oh, however they want to pay. That means absolutely nothing to me. So we need to know specifics, details. How do you accept payments? Do you accept payments this way, that way, Visa, MasterCard? What service are you using to even provide these payments? What systems are you using? Are they able to log into a portal? Are they not? Do you invoice only? Are you sending invoices out after a consultation? Like, how do you accept payments? How does this work? So another thing I see missing is expense management. People, we spend a lot of money in our business. Lord knows we spend a lot of money in our business, right? We're constantly paying this, paying that, getting this paid off and that paid off. And we're looking around trying to figure out what's due. And do you have an expense management system in place, right? Does that system work? Okay. Again, we want to get these things off of your plate. We want to be able to bring someone else in. You don't want all of this on your plate where you have to do it, where you're responsible for every single thing that's going on within the business, and your hair is gray and you're going this way or that way. You can't take a vacation. You can't take a day off. You can't cater to anybody else. You can't have a personal life. Can't have a relationship because you're focused on all the things in order to run your business. Again, put these systems in place. Managing repeat fees on subscriptions. Okay. How do you manage those? You should have a very specific place in which those subscriptions come out each month. So you know, hey, this is a subscription. It's going to come out of this particular account. So X amount of dollars need to go into this account each month. So those subscriptions can come out on time with no issues. Are we all good at this? No, no, no. There's no expectation for you to be a master of this right away. But the more you know, the more you can start to implement and grow and roll some of the responsibilities off of your plate. Payroll. I'm not even going to get into payroll. I'm not even going to take that huge dive into payroll. But sometimes we got CEOs who are sitting doing payroll. They have systems out here now where you can automate payroll and your team can handle payroll themselves, through a mobile app. But listen, however it works for you. How are you handling payroll, taxes, audits? If you're nonprofits, I've worked in nonprofits the bulk of my career. The bulk of my career has been with nonprofits. With that being said, a lot of or healthcare. So a lot of the I'm going to say the healthcare and the large nonprofits are not ready for their audits because they have nothing in place. One of my jobs, I literally like management information specialist. I was a management information specialist for two large nonprofits in the city of Philadelphia. And my main goal each and every day was to review the information that was put in by the workers, whether psychologists, doctors, no matter what they did, case managers, some combined in jobs here, but that was part of gathering the information to literally prepare for an audit. At all times, my job was to make sure that the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted for audit purposes, because we will get audited no matter what. That audit is coming, and we had to make sure that our documentation was up to par. Okay. So with that being said, that's why it's so important. Everything is important when it comes down to business. And I know a lot of us, we jumped in head first during the pandemic. Some of us lost jobs. We didn't have any, we just got sick of people. We was scared to go into an office due to COVID. So we were like, look, I'm not going in there. I'm not doing this. I'm going to sell this and do that. But now it's time to implement and get that business running right, so you can continue to grow. You can continue to make the big money that you make. You can continue to build wealth for your family. You can continue to move forward and live that comfortable life outside of the stress box that some of us have already been in. So just think about some of these things that I'm talking about. So I've already touched. I'm just going to recap here on niche identity. Assess your strategies, workflow, streamlining, and scalability, accounts payable, accounts receivable. We were talking about these things. Next, I want to jump into, as we create these SOPs, these standard operating procedures, one of the big questions is, where do we keep them? Where do we keep them? And so let's jump into that first. I'm not going to go too far with this, but where do you keep them? You create these documents. I suggest several places, unless you have a system, which I'm going to talk about. Um, a lot of companies do have, larger companies have systems in place. But for smaller companies, having a active shared file folder, no matter what system you use, whether you use Google Workspace or what have you, have those documents there. These are not secret documents. These are documents that should be public to the team so they can access them, so they can do the work, so they can reassure themselves if they find themselves stuck on a process or a procedure. They can just log in and pull that doc and find out what they should be doing. Sometimes we forget. We have brain farts. We might forget what we're supposed to be doing. I have those days every time I walk in the office. I mean, I start with it until I have coffee. So just make sure they're in a central location. You can even go as far as to print them out and put them in a binder, section that binder off by task. Yes, it may be a large binder. Hey, it may be a small one. Just a reminder binder. Such a rhyme. But anyway, so, and how often do we get them updated? So this part can be strenuous, but it's important. It's one of the most important things. If anything changes within the organization of how something works, rather the system upgrades and it's a new process, or someone found an easier way to do it, or you eliminated a part that you no longer need, always go back and update. Like, make that the responsibility of someone, okay, to update that SOP. If a staff person gives you a 2-week notice, hey, I know you're leaving. Congratulations on this. Is why it's great to keep good relationships with everyone. But I know you're leaving. But if you wouldn't mind, would you mind just jumping in and updating, or can we sit for a moment so we can update the SOP so I won't have any problem training your replacement? It's important. It's important for that to be updated. In the event someone, I hate to say this, but I've been in positions where we've lost staff or coworkers, and we had to figure out what they did. So there was no calling them at home or calling them or figuring out what they did from, memory, because they were gone, unfortunately. And we had to get the work done no matter what. That work still had to happen. So SOPs can be just phenomenal in so many ways. So even if you assign someone and make this their job, hey, whatever suits you. If it's something you want to handle because you're the primary person that will be training, the creator of everything, then you should be creating these documents. You can always give someone edit rights and have them update them if they're going to be doing that job. Just because you're the owner of the document doesn't mean you don't want someone else to take it over at some point. So it's super important. If you have a larger staff, you want your staff and you're just getting started, this is like a great idea, you want to use it, hey, get your staff to start working on creating standard operating procedures. How do we go about getting started, right? That's the next question. That's a question. So that's the gem. That's the jewels, the bedazzled question, right? Because how do I get started with this? I don't have a template. Honestly, you can go online and get a template from anywhere. Literally go to Google and type in standard operating procedure template. And if you really want to take a deeper dive, put it for your niche, your market, for nonprofits, for retail, for e-commerce websites. I mean, just put it in, see what comes up. Something's going to come up because this is a real thing. This is a thing. Okay. So how do you go about actually starting off? You want to document everything. And I say that in caps, everything you do in your business for at least 2 weeks. So if my job is the social media manager, I'm going to document everything I do for up to 2 weeks. I'm just going to document it. This is the task that I do each and every day. And I say, give yourself 2 weeks because you don't want to miss anything. You don't want to start creating processes and be like, you know what? I forgot the if factor in here. So if this, and if this, just document what it is you do for 2 weeks. Document how much time you spend on certain tasks. How much time does it take me to do this? Now, this may seem tedious, but it's worth it in the long run. Trust me. Break down this time in 10-minute increments each and every day. How much time do I spend on doing on a phone call each and every day? Quick story. I worked for Comcast and several departments, but one of the main ones was at the business center. We had a quota. We had to, they knew because they did the research that we should be able to take that call and complete that call within 11 minutes. I thought it was insane. But in the beginning, I was like, I'm not going to keep this job. This call center is outrageous. How can we just get through it? Because sometimes we would get a customer who would be irate for 10 minutes. So how can we get through this call in 11 minutes? There's tricks to that. We figured it out. I was there. I performed very high because we were able, they had processes in place to make sure that this happened. Okay, so that's what you want to do. Figure out how long it takes you to perform a task. Because if you're going to give that task, if you're going to start to delegate tasks to other people, you don't want someone saying, well, I've been working on that all day. And you like, oh, I did it before. It ain't never take me all day. Because that's me. It ain't never take me all day to do it. It took me 10 minutes. So if you document that and create that expectation, then you never have to ask them, well, how long did it take you? Well, it shouldn't have taken from, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Like, that's not realistic for that task to be done. So create those expectations. List the time that it takes. It should take you no longer than, I say, give people a little more time because everybody don't work like you. So if it takes you 10 minutes, give them 15 to 20 minutes to get that done, right? So be realistic as well. This allows you to identify various functions that you perform. And it also allows you to identify which tasks can be delegated. Because some things you just like, you know what, this is my baby. I'm going to hold on to it because I don't trust anybody to do this. I don't trust them to get this done like I would. And eventually that'll roll off too, because eventually you can be like, you know what, I love this SOP thing. Let me get it done. Let me let other people do the work. Okay. So how can I document my SOPs? There are a ton of resources, or what I like to call tools, out there to do this. The fact is however you want, literally, is whatever makes you comfortable, whatever makes sense to you. And like I said, they're just standard operating procedures. There's templates out there. There's tools you can use if you want to do screen capture. Some of you may just want to create a video showing the actual software, every single step that you need to do. You can use a software that I use here called Loom, loom.com. I'll drop it in the chat. It's called loom.com. So I don't have any codes or anything because I'm not partnered with any of these companies. But again, loom.com, I'm going to show it on the screen as well. Loom.com allows you to grab that video and then share it out. You can share it out. You can download and store it. Put it in your SOP folder that you keep in a central place for people to access when they need it. You can put your voice on it as well. Just so much. Like, it's called loom.com. Okay. Another one I use here is called Tango. Tango has become my favorite. I do believe Tango is new. But what it creates is step by step. I'm going to drop that in the chat. It's an actual, what do you call it? Like a plugin on Google. So there's no website, I believe, that you can go to, if I'm not mistaken. But if you do Google Tango, it will take you and show you exactly what it is. But it's a plugin on Google. And what it does is it allows you to create step-by-step worksheets with screenshots and everything showing exactly the work that you're doing. Now, you don't have to type this out because it's recording it as you go along. So those steps are being written out. And of course, you got to go back and edit. Nothing in technology is perfect. But in most cases, they're going to capture every single thing that you do. And now you read over it. And now you have a document showing your standard operating procedure for that particular task, right? So that SOP is in place. Boom, you can continue to move. So how much simpler can we get here? Okay, so the last one that I'm going to talk about is Trainual. Okay, Trainual.com. Again, I will add that. So we got Tango, which is a Google plugin. And then we have Trainual. Okay. Trainual, make sure I'm spelling it right. Trainual.com. Okay. Trainual does cost. So I believe it starts at about $99 a month. And this is great, great, great for small businesses with a staff who already have a staff. You want to move forward. You want to start to build this and implement this in your everyday business. This is the perfect tool. It's number one in the market and it works. Okay. This allows you to do everything else that I talked about, and have a place to keep it. So this will also be your central location for your documents, because this is how you train your staff. Having these documents in place helps you to train a staff person who's going to be handling a certain set of tasks. If I hire an administrative assistant and I want that administrator to handle X, Y, and Z, I should be able to give him or her those documents in order to move forward, in order to do the task without question. That way, I not only ensure that that person is comfortable with those tasks, but also comfortable working for me, understanding that I'm here to help. I'm here to help them through the process, learn the process, because people stay at jobs they're comfortable at. Let's be realistic. Once we get into a position and where the money's comfortable or okay, and we can pay our bills, and we got our manager or supervisor got a good personality, because we can leave jobs because of supervisors or managers. We stay. We stay. Work good workers stay in good companies, and that's the end all be all. And that about sums up the standard operating procedures for entrepreneurs. Of course, you guys, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I am here. My information, I believe, is on the screen. Let's make sure it's all there. We're going to show my direct contact number as well, I think, if it lets me. So we're going to make sure that we have it all there. You can reach me on my website. I don't always sit at my desk and answer the phone, but definitely leave a message if you don't get me on the first try. Just listen, guys, get it together. We get this together. You're going to find yourself in an amazing space where you can build your company smooth, right? Have smooth operations. Onboarding process will be much simpler. You can, really grow your business, make more money, and focus on getting more customers. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody that tuned in today. I'm about to actually take some of these calls that were coming in and do some work on my end. I appreciate you all. Make sure you like, subscribe if you're on the Flutin channel. If you're not on the Flutin channel, make sure you come follow me on flutin.com, where you can see some more exclusive events or information